the brain rot is what got me through the long wait. And now, in just 6 days, that wait is finally coming to an end. Huge thanks to Remdol, friends inside of us, Pluie, Wingaster, the royal scientists, Ralsei smoking a blunt, the piles of Asriel's dust, hands haunted by my genocides, story of Undertale, silk posting, the salt route, Scampton, Pedally, Undyne shouting 7, and above all, Deltarune tomorrow. It's honestly surreal that in under a week, Deltarune will actually be here. So, Deltarune is a week away, huh? It's been a long ride, starting from the friends inside of us to the ones outside. From the Plewies, everyone is getting to the Screaming Ape theory. From post chapter 1, Chris kills everyone theories to a lesbian deer being a literal god. From Sans Undertale is actually from Steven Universe crackpot theories to Sans's NES. Or NES. I don't know how to say that. From Angsty Undertale AMV edits. My point is, I've been in the Undertale Deltarune community for around 9 years at this point, and have a piece of my mind that I'd like to share with you guys. Before you jump into this theory slash video head first, I would like to give a quick disclaimer. Most of the things I'm about to say aren't the original, nor am I claiming them to be. This video is more or so meant to be a time capsule for when chapter 3 and 4 come out, when we will see if these theories were right or not. Don't mind if this is going to be a bit incoherent, since this is my first video about Deltarune for like ever. Well, if anyone will even care enough to watch this video anyway. The reason I'm making this video is more or less fear of missing out. What if all my Deltarune theories were right all along, and no one got to hear them before the new chapters dropped? That would truly be horrible. Well, would you look at that? We're not at that position right now. And before we begin, I wish you take a leap of faith with me and listen to what I say with a clear mind. We will be going down a rabbit hole of pure speculation. This video is about the direction I think would be cool for Deltarune to take. So take it with a pinch of salt. This theory slash video aims to answer the general questions everyone has asked themselves at least once in their Delta lifetime, in a short but meaningful manner. I was originally call it the 69 theory, but thought it would be immature, so I didn't do that. Let's call it the nature of Deltarune theory. Without further ado, let's get started. Now, there are a few presuppositions or pre-requirements that you need to accept. That is what I ask of you. So, creating a dark fountain is a sinful act according to the angel religion. I won't clarify this, it is just sinful. Darkness equals fiction, light equals reality. I know this is not a hot take, but this is essential to understand the core message about what I'm trying to convey. Rossi is Judas. He takes instructions from Gaster as Judas did from the devil. Now, I don't expect Toby to go along this similarity too much, but I just wanted to point this out. The dualities. Light, de-immersion, 9, Kara, level, power, angel, narrator, light worlds, Toby Fox, real world, the player's disbelief. These are all part of the light and the 9 duality. Now, you might not understand what I'm saying right now, but you will in a second. The other one is darkness, immersion, 6, death, vessel, friend, fun. Fun instead of leveling and power. Gaster, night, dark worlds, Ralsei, fiction, hell, depths, darkness itself. Everything revolving around Gaster and darkness, basically. And to finish the presuppositions off, dark worlds are where reality and dream meet, the shadow's edge, the penumbra of the phantasm, to put it in another way. Okay, that was the end of the presuppositions. Now, let's get on with the actual theory. Deltarune is a game about duality. Deltarune is a legend of hopes and dreams, light and dark, 6 and 9, immersion and detachment, the angel and the devil, reality and dream, limits and potentials, power and fun, love in capitals and love, sin and virtue, peace and violence, completionism, and being content with what you have. These themes also delve into Undertale, but we won't be talking about them as much right now because this is a Deltarune video. All of these phrases and dualities are intertwined with each other on their respective sides. This is essential for us to understand what the forces in the game represent. 6 is associated with Gaster, fiction, and immersion because of the parallels between the devil and him. From traditional media and Semitic religions, we know the devil is usually illusional and makes other people fall into his traps using fiction and shit like that. He is also Gaster is also associated with darkness and fiction for obvious reasons, whereas the angels connected with the light and detachment from set games or creative media. 9 is the limit, the angel, in which you get so strong that you are no longer able to be immersed in the game as you are in the read route, and to draw even a further parallel to the genocide route. Now flip the 9 and you get a 6. You see where I'm getting at? Gaster is 6, the angel is 9. The devil is 6, the angel is 9. Stuff like that. Ooh, man. Now you flip the 9 and you get a 6. You are getting even further immersed in the game via being peaceful and acting, therefore being further immersed in the game. The act of acting is also a play on the words of Gaster being an acronym for stager. What do stagers do? Stagers stage a game. We can say Gaster is staging a game via the dark fountains and the dark worlds, and we are the ones playing inside of those dark fountains as players, as we are meant to be, to act like an actor. We know he supports the making of those fountains, and dark fountains are probably transgressions against the angel. You know how we said that uh, dark fountains are sinful? Yes, they are. Because Gaster refers to the fountains as the holy in the game original soundtrack. We know it's the Gaster saying that it's holy because they're in capitals, obviously. Well, something the devil refers to as the holy isn't that holy anymore, no? In that way, he's using the dark fountains as a way to stage a game, while the angel is opposing that, and in those dark worlds, Gaster intends us to act, and that is why he tells Ralsei, which we know is Gaster-pilled, because of the fact they are aware of the meta aspects of Deltarune to convince the player to be peaceful, to act. A stager stages the game, and we're expected to act in it. In a certain sense, the angel trashes the set stage in question with their light, sealing those set fountains with its light. As we are saying, Gaster and the forces of the angel are the exact and direct opposites of each other. Gaster is trying to immerse you into the game of Deltarune, whereas the angel, I'm not so sure about this, but the angel is not doing that by putting you inside Chris and detaching you from the dark worlds and fiction itself. And the angel wishes you to break the game, to break the game's meta narrative. I don't know how it would exactly do that, but it seems to be the direction in which Deltarune tends to be going, in a way, detaching you from darkness and fiction. Now, an angel character doesn't exist supposedly, but from a meta-narrative perspective, if you look at it from a force of evil and force of good kind of mentality, it makes a whole lot of sense for there not to be a specific angel character, but a force, a sense of the angel to exist does. Now, the angel trinity. We know the angel's belief in Deltarune is similar to Christianity. By the way, I hope that last part helped you really understand the duality that I'm trying to convey, because this is really important in the case of this theory, okay? It's the 69th theory. We know the angel's belief in Deltarune is similar to Christianity in that communion is present. We also know Noelle is similar to Jesus in more ways than one is comfortable with. She is the first one, other than Chris, to bear witness to us, the player. She's crucified at the end of chapter 2. Her horns look like crosses. She is holiday themed. She is fucking 25th of December themed. Like, everything about Jesus. It just fits so fucking perfectly. The crown of thorns and the thorn ring, it just goes on. We also know it is alluded we are the angel as well. So you get this weird situation where you don't have one apparent angel candidate because both the player and Noel seem to cancel each other out. My solution? The Holy Trinity, but in Deltarune. Now, yes, the Holy Trinity and its derivatives have been plaguing the theory-making scene for many games, but hear me out. It would nicely tie with Deltarune's obsession with the number 3. Noel is the son. In a way, she is a part of the angel. You are the father, looking from up the world and deciding his fate, quite literally. You held more autonomy and authority than one could imagine. You can delete or reset timelines at will in the save and the chapter select screen. As for the Holy Spirit, I'm not so sure. Following this logic, it would be Chris who is the Holy Spirit, because they're the one allowing us to be present in the world of Deltarune, both spiritually and figuratively. Chris only has one soul, which is the one we control. Okay, skipping topics. Every time I skip a topic, I'm just gonna say that, because it is getting really incoherent. The reason I'm reaching this conclusion is that I believe Chris only has a single soul and there is no third entity controlling them, or something like that, because Chris having a third party controlling them destroys the entire possession dynamic built and intended by Toby. Now, as for why Chris doesn't have a separate soul of their own, first, it would be weird for Chris to have two souls, don't you think? If they have two souls, why are they moving around like they smoked 10 packs of cigars, Marlboro, after they tear their soul apart? Like, wouldn't they be able to move around normally if they still have their soul? And an extra soul, I mean, a second soul. I think Chris having a single soul and not being able to function properly without the said soul explains stuff better. So then, you might be asking, how do we gain autonomy over Chris if there is not a third entity, nor do they have a soul of their own? My theory is you're the light inside the soul, slash a part of the angel, skipping topics. Now, you might be confused when I say we are a part of the angel. Think about it, we just talked about it. There's a scale of light and dark when it comes to the way other narrative layers interact with each other, which we talked about. The parallels between the angel and light make this apparent. Your light shines upon Ralsei and Susie in the final bosses of their respective chapters. Now, why does the game tell you this? To make the distinction between your light and your soul. Even though the game says it is your soul, it is not completely your soul, but your light. Your light is... it is absolutely yours, whereas the soul is more malleable. The Chris can fucking tear it out inside of them and put it in a cage. You know what I mean? It's like a common ownership thing you have with Chris's soul, where you kind of own it, but you don't, and Chris kind of owns it, but they also don't, which we will get to. How you're the light inside the soul, just around now. Your light shines upon Ralsei and Susie in the final bosses of their respective chapters to make them use their special attacks. Now, as to how our light got inside the soul, I believe Gaster is the one who had put our light inside Chris's soul, allowing us to gain autonomy over Chris in the Gunner Maker sequence. Our soul is summoned into the depths, our light is put inside the soul, and we are asked some super weird questions, which we'll get to why those questions are really weird and why that is actually important towards the end. Changing topics, we were meant to play as the vessel. Gaster had originally planned for us to control the vessel like a knight archetype character as in traditional JRPGs. We would venture in the depths from Dark World to Dark World with another cast of different characters. I'm a bit unsure about this, but the vessel originally was meant to be the one we control for some reason. This would obviously leave Chris dead. Now everything would go according to plan until a force of the angel took back Chris's soul and put it back again. I won't dwell further into this because I'm really not sure about how this happened, nor what I'm saying is true. As I said, we're just speculating about what would be cool, you know? And what is determination? In traditional media, the author of said media has the most control and authority over the fate of that world. In the case of video games, a degree of autonomy the author has is ceded to the player, either willingly or unwillingly. That is what makes video games actually interactable and sets them apart from other pieces of media. To be more specific, in Deltarune and Undertale's case, considering the in-inverse term determination is being used interchangeably between two realms, the authority in question is determination, the ability to determine fate, determination, to determine, determinability. Toby does that a lot. He likes to use compound words with their literal meanings. As you know, a being with the highest amount of determination can save and load from Undertale, even though we are not so sure that also goes for Deltarune. We know that the universe concept of determination is in Deltarune, but it is not quite the same compared to Undertale. Now, determination doesn't come from one soul. We know this from Flowey being able to save and load, and Chris being able to open dark worlds with their determination, presumably. We'll get to why determination is important just about now. Changing topics, how do dark worlds, darkness, and determination work? Speculation alert, as if we haven't been speculating up to this point, lol. Darkness is a liquid that can be created in different ways. The ability to create darkness is a rare thing. One of the ways to create it is to create your own world or reality. Authors, actors, stagers, directors, painters, musicians, game designers, architects, poets, philosophers, dreamers, children, madmen, mystics, liars, all of them have an acquired sense of determination to create their own dark world in a way. The way this ties into Deltarune is in the way of Gerson Boom and other stagers we know of. Gerson is an author. He wrote Lord of the Hammer and History of Humans and Monsters. Now, I won't bring up the resemblances between Lord of the Rings and Deltarune's main plot since it's not relevant, but I'm going to say this. I believe Gerson Boom had his share of darkness himself, so darkness isn't anything new to him, nor to the world of Deltarune. It probably existed before the events of Chris acting weird began. Instead, what is happening now is that darkness is produced in mass amounts inside the bunker, being the reason dark fountains can be opened in Hometown and nowhere in mass. If dark fountains could be opened since the beginning of history and anywhere, we would be having the roaring by now, or the entire prophecy is fake about the roaring, which I don't think it is. Like, really. So, as Queen stated, I believe anyone who can make their own stories or worlds, figuratively speaking, can open their own dark fountains with the help of determination, provided that there is enough darkness. They use that determination to determine the said dark world's fate, thus creating a dark fountain in which is interactable. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but it does to me. I also believe dark fountains will end when the game is over, like the concept and dark fountains as a whole, because we will be putting an end to the darkness production inside the bunker. The TLDR of that is, darkness is a liquid that can be imbued with determination to create dark fountains. Darkness is created by authors and alike. Darkness is also being produced in the bunker in large amounts. Once the prophecy is fulfilled, dark fountains will no longer be able to mate in mass. Another another point I'd like to make is that darkness inherits their original light nurse personality traits or ideal personality traits. We'll get to why that's important. Hell and Heaven. I don't have much to say about this actually. Angel 7 is our real world. We have demonstrated why in the 6 and 9. I believe Depths is where fiction originates from, where Gaster, Fran, Vessel, and Des are. In a way, Depths and Hell will be a place representative of fiction itself. I reached this conclusion going down the reality and fantasy and light dark scaling, even though power scaling isn't like looked positively in the theory making scene of Deltarune. But I did that anyways. Changing topics, hopes and dreams, and why weird dark world stuff happened. Okay, I'm actually confident about this one. This is not some Delta brain rot shit, okay? In chapter 1, question mark starting area, or Chapter 3 newsletter couch and carpet area where, Chris and Susie are looking at this weird darkness tendrils and stuff like that. And the Chapter 4 gooey stuff chasing us in the trailer and breaking tinted glass behind us. All of these are examples of what I call weird dark world stuff. I couldn't come up with a more creative name. The reason this phenomenon exists is because of hopes and dreams and the lack thereof. Now, when a dark world opens, darkness engulfs the room and begins transforming the objects and giving them meaning based on their past experiences or lack thereof experiences or the exact opposites of what had been experienced by those darkness. I won't get into that, but because it is pretty much common knowledge in the community by now. One aspect of how it does that is the strength which the fountain provides the said object. When an object is really important to a Lightner, that said object will be loaded with hopes and dreams alongside a shadow crystal being created. We know this from the Sham dialogue, that when he's implying that the mechanism in the Queen's mansion's basement and how Spamton found the shadow crystal inside that machine, the dream body that Metaton had drawn in MS Paint. When an object is what I'm trying to say is when an object is really important to a Lightner, that said object will be loaded with hopes and dreams alongside a shadow crystal being created. Are you following along with me here? Because shadow crystals, as we have seen, they only are generated when an object is really important to a Lightner. But on the opposite end of the spectrum, if an object has no hopes and dreams, when a fountain comes in contact with that object, it won't be able to take proper form, and it will actually take an unorthodox form, like a storage closet, a couch, a carpet, piles of dust, piles of Asriel's dust. How much hopes and dreams can a storage closet, a couch, a carpet, and dust, piles of Asriel's dust, have? I don't think a whole lot. Broken pillars, clouds of dust, piles of darkness tendrils, weird white plants in the Chapter 1 question mark beginning area. These are all examples of places devoid of hopes and dreams, whereas an object with lots of hopes and dreams will be strong. So strong that it will soar above the clouds, reaching its head onto heaven. Oh yeah, Metaton's dream body. He put his heart and soul, aching to have a body of his own in MS Paint, filling the mechanism with hopes and dreams, making it monumentally strong. And when Spamton got inside that machine, he had found the shadow crystal, and then you know how it goes. And you might be asking, wait, okay, you've been talking about how secret bosses and when something is really important to a Lightner, and then it generates like a shadow crystal. Wouldn't that also work for Jewel? Because, well, he's obviously also a secret boss. I'm glad you asked. The same goes for Jewel. I don't know if you played 37 or other card games as such, where the Joker card makes the next in turn draw 10 cards, like in Uno. Now you tell me if that fills you with hopes and dreams or not. I know it might be a bit of a stretch, but this whole theory is a bit of a stretch, so yeah. One ending, question mark. How Deltarune will end. Changing topics. Deltarune is like a delta plane, where there are different paths the delta can take, but in the end, there is only one converging path. Well, that wasn't original, was it? I think I saw it on our Reddit thread a few years ago, or on multiple YouTube videos. So yeah, I believe the prophecy will be true no matter what. But Toby left a few parts of the prophecy up to judgment. Actually, the entire prophecy is up to judgment, but yeah. Who is going to be the angel? Who will be the three heroes? How exactly will the Angel 7 be banished? Maybe the angels can vary between the routes you take, and it would tie nicely with the 6 and 9 we talked about earlier. Maybe in the weird route, Noel becomes the angel, whereas in a normal playthrough, we are the angel as we are brought up to be. Maybe the three heroes will vary between endings. The three heroes could be the Vessel, Noel, and Lancer. I'm just grasping at straws here, okay? And who is the Knight? Changing topics, obviously. Okay, no point in beating around the bush. There are two qualifications someone needs to have to be the Knight. And no, I personally hate poly Knight theories. I hate them with a passion. I don't want to see anyone defending poly Knight theories. One, is there a Lightner? Two, is there associated with darkness somehow? Thanks to the second option, it narrows down our candidates by a whole lot. If we are to say the Knight is not their unique character and someone from hometown, and by the way, before we get into the candidates, I'd like to say, why should they be associated with darkness and Gaster and shit like that? Because the Knights, as in their nature, they are trying to create dark fountains, and their motives, one of their motives, can be to immerse you, as dark fountains and dark worlds do. So they're obviously associated with darkness, Six, Gaster, Stager, all that kinds of stuff. Our candidates are Chris, Mayor, Alvin, Des, and Vessel. Considering the Knight is not their unique character. Starting with Chris Knight. Oh boy. I was a Chris Knight believer for 3 whole goddamn years. I won't dwell too much on this topic, but all I'm gonna say, either it makes too much sense at times or it won't at all. This is not a Chris Knight debating video. We can do that in the future. I'm optimistic on Chris Knight because they summoned the soul before we came along and have been practicing occult magic with Caddy, and they are simply too suspicious. I mean, Chris is too suspicious, not Caddy, obviously. Oh, but I believe there can be better candidates than Chris Knight. Alvin Knight could be interesting with stuff like Oberon Smog and I mean, the hammer itself, in on itself, can be a red herring, but I believe the hammer will be important. Maybe the hammer is buried with Gerson, and Alvin digs Gerson's grave in order to retrieve the hammer out to create the Chapter 4 Dark Fountain. We know monsters are buried with their favorite item sprinkled upon their dust from Undertale. We know that. And this same probably happens in Deltarune because considering that's... Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, I also think Sans and Papyrus come from Deltarune because of obvious reasons like IC only being mentioned once and IC puzzle actually mentioning seasons that only exist on the surface world, and Sans and Papyrus being the only characters that are actually like have this kind of meta awareness. Not Papyrus, but Sans. He has this meta awareness. He has this huge fucking time travel machine, supposedly, and then he has this photo of 3 people they don't recognize that says "Don't forget," which is the main theme and song of Deltarune, and those 3 people are probably the 3 heroes. And then he says he wants to go back, and then Papyrus actually remembers green grass before they arrived into Snowdin. Okay, what were we talking about again? Yeah, we were talking about Alvin Knight. Yeah, so I just wanted to sprinkle that along. You know, Sans and Papyrus, they're from Deltarune. And they got to the world of Undertale for God knows why. So yeah, Alvin Knight, pretty possible. They probably buried Gerson's tomb in Chapter 4 and then got the hammer, and they may also have created the Dark World with that said fountain, said hammer. I don't know. It can also be a red herring, or it could also be a Chekhov's gun, where, you know how it is. Mayor Knight. It is pretty probable. Carol is being built up to be this antagonistic character in many ways, whether it be Asgore getting thrown out of his house, or just not treating, or the mayor or Carol not just treating her family ideally. Also, the Knight Mayor joke or pun is such a Toby thing to do. I'm expecting it, but her motives could be a bit weird. Like, okay, one probable one is to find Des, but other than that, I don't fuck with that idea a whole lot. And coming on to Death Knight, I know a lot of people love this, I love this, but It is probably one of the coolest concepts amongst them all. That's crawling out their way out of the depths and then opening fountains for God knows why, yet it is not clear how that would work out and it has some technical difficulties. But it is a really good concept and there are actually good shit supporting that, although I don't remember what exactly. Vessel Knight, if you read Oblivion Theory, in which I have, the old one, by the way, I read the old Oblivion Theory, not the first one. The old one had like 300, 500 pages or some shit like that. So if you read that, you know how good of a concept and that Vessel Knight or Gaster Knight makes sense. It really fits into the theme of 6 and 9 rebuilt up and represents your drive and determination to play further into the game, to summarize it. Although it has the same technical difficulties that Death Knight faces, it is one of my favorite Knight candidates personally, and I believe in it personally, not gonna lie. But would I be surprised if that wasn't the case, I don't think it will be the case? No, I wouldn't. Okay, getting to the future Dark Worlds. I am 1,000, a billion, gazillion percent sure Bunker and Flower King will be future Dark World locations because of two peculiar unused songs in the sound test room Undertale. Trouble Dingle and Meat Factory. Meat Factory, we established darkness or something related to darkness is being produced in the bunker, so therefore, Meat Factory will be used in the Bunker Dark World, whereas the Trouble Dingle, which means Dingle means a deep wooded valley or dell, will be used in the Flower King Dark World. Heck, there is a reason a new door was added to Flower King in Chapter 2, which also happened to the computer lab in Chapter 2, that we know also got a Dark World. Flower King got a door in which we can enter, probably, in chapter 2. I mean, it got added in chapter 2 that we can enter in the future, and even better, there are comics in Asgore's room, and it would delve into themes of escapism of comics and other readable media as such. Maybe the chapter of Flower King becomes a dark world, it will delve on escapes themes of cosmetics too. Who knows? There will probably be chapters where we are dealt multiple dark worlds per chapter, and one of them could be the Icy's pizza. It would dwell on the escapism of food, and we could even get a future subplot relating to Susie's eating disorder. I don't know, but that would be cool. Holiday Manor can also be a future location, but dumping that much lore and content on us in a 7 chapter game without taking into consideration the game files saying the game goes on until chapter 10 and stuff like that, that would be dumb. I'm just saying that we wouldn't have enough space in the lore or in the game or in the production at all to actually make that work. Glacier. Okay, we're moving on to the Spampton Sweepstakes ARG spot. Now, I am not gonna talk about the ones about the ones that were like 3 years ago, but we're gonna talk about Glacier specifically. And I have a really good reasoning as to why that is. Glacier, maybe it's a reference to a room in Chapter 5's Dark World. I don't know why, but I always keep seeing Glacier is related to Chapter 5. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's the balloon in the newsletter, maybe it's the fact that the TV is related to like Chapter 5. I got no idea. So far, the wardrobe in each respective Dark World has been the palace zone of said chapter. In like Chapter 1, you have the card castle, which is like the wardrobe of that room. In chapter 2, you have the wardrobe filled with computerware, hard computer hardware, and then that is actually a palace zone. So what we will have in the Flower Kings, oh yeah, I think it will be a reference to the Flower King Dark World Palace area in chapter 5. In this sense, the wardrobe of that Dark World, which is the fridge in Flower King, being the Ice Palace, and all references in the ARG makes sense, and we will have a room that is like that goes like on and on infinitely upon Usia Road leading upwards in which you are like thrown out of the loop. We can see that happen in chapter 5, and it could be a important plot point because like it is actually brought on in the Spantan sweepstakes, which is we know is important. Changing topics, or not so much. Chapter 3 Secret Boss and Shadow Mantle. I want to figure out what the Chapter 3 Secret Boss is, so we can move on to /ROMB. This room makes it explicitly clear we need the Shadow Mantle to get the Shadow Crystal in Chapter 3. We know this because of the sound effect that plays in Chapter 3 and ROMB. We have established a Shadow Crystal is generated when an object is filled with so much hopes and dreams, it is so important to a Lightner, then it is generated from Sean. When an object is discarded, it gains the potential to be a secret boss. Then the secret boss must find the Shadow Crystal, which was generated via an object filled with hopes and dreams, or the said Darkner that is meant to be the secret boss can generate the Shadow Crystal themselves by being really important too. As for the object that has generated the Shadow Crystal, there are multiple candidates. My bet is on the discarded flowers since it is filled with Asgore's hopes and dreams of getting back together with Toriel. As a joke, I believe it will be Asgore and Toriel's divorce papers. That would fit into a good theme of being a secret boss. Okay, jokes aside, as for the secret boss itself, well, it can still be the discarded flowers, but it can also be something else, like the stuff under Azriel's bed, religious ska, the missing green crayon, even though I think the green crayon is meant to be the trefoil sword, the remote, it could be the piles of Azriel's dust, or it could be something like a friend inside of us. Not gonna lie, there are pretty strong pieces of evidence supporting Widow theory, and I have a feeling the secret boss will be a cowboy-themed one, considering the invisible box in /ROMB that says, "You can never defeat us, let's rumble." I know it is a reference to the Legend of Zelda game, Dream Island, whatever it was, but the Wild West vibes of these sentences are uncanny. You cannot regret that, you cannot reject that. On top of that, Toby Fox misguiding or guiding us by saying the cowboy part was in threat of being cancelled, as cowboy shows do, I guess, is evidence enough for me. As for how we will get the Shadow Mantle, the mantle in question is the one King is wearing. Toby semi-clarifies this when he talks about King's Mantle in the Undertale 6th Anniversary Fangamer livestream. As it is known, the mantle flies upwards once the king is weakened. We also need the mantle to acquire the Shadow Crystal, presumably by being able to defeat the secret boss. We might need to go back to Chapter 1's Dark World to get back to the Shadow Mantle from the unused classroom or something like that. I am not so sure. Maybe we can do some sort of time skip that will give us Shadow Mantle even though we haven't completed Chapter 1. I don't know. There's just too much speculation that needs to go around. The Trance Effect, Twisted Sword, and Thorn Ring. Switching topics. When Noelle has a Thorn Ring equipped, she will gain the Trance Up effect. As far as we know, this ability allows Noelle to hear us regardless of where we are, and makes them do as we command them. This is evident at the end of the weird route. When you call Noelle's name, she will come to your aid regardless. I think this is due to the Trance Up effect that Thorn Ring gives them. In another instance, when again we are on the weird route and about to fight Birdie, Noelle is in this trance-like state with her eyes shut and shrunk, which that sprite in which her eyes are shrunk doesn't happen anywhere else in the game. As far as I remember. If I'm wrong, correct me. Okay, about the Birdie part actually, it may or may not be the Thorn Ring causing her to act weird before the Birdie fight. The explanation for this is, regardless of what Noelle is wearing before the weird route Birdie fight, she will act the same. But as I said, Noelle is coming to our aid, and freezing Spamton is a demonstration of how the Trance Up effect functions, allowing you to exert more authority over Noelle and put her in a trance-like state. Trance. Okay, that actually fits with Noelle, considering like she's bi and LGBTQI plus and shit like that. Twisted Sword, on the other hand, gives you the trance down effect. Now, even if you hack the Twisted Sword, then the trance down won't have any in-game mechanics, so we are kind of left in the dark by Toby here. I believe the trance down effect in future chapters will loosen our control over Chris and give Chris more autonomy over themselves. This may, in turn, speculation alert, result in a plot twist where we are left without a peon and are forced to play as the vessel or some other lightener or darker. That would be cool. Okay, we have gotten past the main bulk of the theory. Thanks for watching so far, if anyone is watching, as I said. Time for some brain rot, predictions, and reminders that I wasn't able to tie into the main theory. The ideas about to be mentioned come from me, but they are mostly from multiple other theories that I stole from. Most of them are obvious, so don't mind it if it's like obvious. This part will be a bit more experimental, I guess. We will see. Ralsei is Chris's idealized self. Kara is your will to power. Susie is an anagram for issue. Glacier is a reference to Brandish 3 original soundtrack Glacier. That explains why it is written badly. There will be 3 routes, chill, fever, and weird. It is a reference to Super Mario Doctor and the 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 microbe types. Chris Deltarune needs you for your save and load ability. That's why they're keeping you around, I think. Kara and the vessel are your reflection. As again, Oblivion theory. There is hell imagery in Dark Worlds. This ties in nicely with the darkness and Gaster parallels we drew earlier. By hell imagery, I mean Ralsei has horns, and the Titans also have horns, and the Darkners are seeing the fountain as holy, in which it is not holy, and Dark Fountains in and itself, act and the act of playing inside the Dark Worlds reminds me of heathens or heretics going against God's will and throwing away their responsibilities and obligations in order to actually have fun. It is like a fun orgy, if you know what I mean. So yeah, Dark Worlds are literally hell. That's what I'm trying to say. Both figuratively and literally. The song coming from the ocean is this. The scratching they hear is Mike. Because Mike is a cat, or it is the vessel. We don't know. By vessel, I mean separately from Mike. I know Mike is not the vessel. Entities with Goner color palettes also exist in Earthbound Halloween Hack. It is not relevant, I just wanted to point that out. Deltarune takes heavy inspiration from Moon RPG. I really suggest you give it a play. The intros of Undertale and Deltarune serve completely different and exact opposite purposes. Undertale tries to detach you with Flowey. It is a 9 move, by the way, a 9 light angel move, duality kind of shit, whereas Deltarune tries to immerse you, a 6 Gaster darkness kind of move, if you know what I mean. Okay, there's this experimental theory I'm actually confident about. Gaster is originally from Undertale. He fell in his own creation, which is the Darkness Experiment in Undertale. Now, he is split among alternative universes. That includes Deltarune and Underfell Vortale, unfortunately. Jokes aside, another evidences for this are the questions and the vessel samples Gaster provides you with. All of them look very weird and unorthodox. It's as if the questions asked are from someone who has never seen what a human looks like before. The questions are even weirder. Favorite color? Cold? Pain? Those aren't even flavors, Gaster. Favorite blood type? What do you mean by C? As C blood type? As we have seen, Gaster is a stranger when it comes to human-related topics. Now, that would be an understandable thing, since many monsters in Undertale, don't get to see humans all that often. Even if Gaster is a royal scientist, they have seen around a handful of humans at max. But this wouldn't be understandable if Gaster was from Deltarune, if Gaster Deltarune. TLDR of that is, Gaster is from Undertale because of his lack of knowledge about humans and his sudden disappearance regarding the darkness experiments. Shadow crystals. I don't know why I didn't speak of this earlier and this is thrown into the experimental parts, but shadow crystals show a narrative layer above, or a reality where the dark worlds, or fountains of the respective crystals never existed. Actually, if you think about it, Susie is looking at Chris coldly. Now, if the Dark Worlds never existed, Susie wouldn't get the chance to open up to Chris, and they wouldn't be friends. And when you hold the crystal up in the Dark World, it shows toys strewn on the floor. Now, if the Dark Fountain was never opened, it would still stay the same, toys strewn on the floor. It actually makes a lot of sense, and I stole this, by the way. This is not original. Most of this aren't original. And as for the shadow crystals showing a narrative layer above themselves, it makes a lot of sense until you consider Chris being able to see through their own hand. Which, and Susie looking at Chris coldly. I don't know how to explain this. Like, okay, in the Dark Worlds, the fact that shadow crystals show a narrative level above you, that makes sense because in chapter 1 you see toys strewn on the floor, and in chapter 2 you see uh, you see the computer lab. But once in the light world, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Maybe from a perspective point of view, as you have a bird's eye view of the room. Let's say Chris shuts their eyes with their hands. Now Chris won't be able to see what's in front of them, but you will be able to see through their hand because you have a bird's eye top view of the world. And as for Susie looking coldly at you, I think it's a little bit of a gimmick of how we are not able to tell uh, how characters are looking on an idle scale, idly, uh, when we have a pixelated bird's eye view of the room. That's what I think happens. Like, Suzy is not looking at us coldly, but when we have a bird's eye point of their world, we can't really tell apart their emotions all that much. So that's what I think the game is trying to convey here. So yeah, in my opinion, shadow crystals and glass in the light world show a narrative layer above you. Whew, okay. Moving on, Toby uses parentheses when he wants to foreshadow something via the narrator, like the wash your hands and the grand door in chapter 1 saying it may never be opened again, or the Chris's house TV's flavor texts. All of them are in parentheses and they are really unorthodox. They just seem so odd, and in my opinion, they will be used to, like, in future chapters we should watch out for weird flavor text that is also parentheses, because it is probably foreshadowing. RPG elements are one more narrative level down compared to Undertale in Deltarune. What I mean by that is, like, you can just play Undertale and then you're in a, RPG game, but in Deltarune it is like just real life with furry ass monsters, with fucking furries. No hate though, I just said fucking furries because I felt like it. And then once you open a dark fountain, the RPG actually starts taking place. Moving on, the Darker Than Dark chair exists wherever the Holiday family is. Because think about it, in Rudolph's room, you have a chair that is really similar to the Darker Than Dark chair, and in the town hall, you also have a chair that looks very similar to the Darker Than Dark chair. Interesting. Moving on, The slash chapter 5 website tells us which chapters are applicable and which ones aren't. The darkened out chapters are not weird route applicable. A chapter's size can signify the playtime or the lore significance of each weird route chapter. As for the original soundtracks and their names in the ARG websites, when we mash them together in order from 1 to 5, we get W, W, D, MA, ME, and H, which is WDMMech, MA which doesn't make too much sense to me. The bad part about the chapter /chapter 5 website is that like gives us all these info about chapter number sizes, the chapters being white and black. Like it gives you all this info, but at the same time, you can't really reach a conclusion with it because it is just simply too vague. And I believe there are better videos explaining what those uh, chapter 5 website is about. Moving on, how long did it take her to smile? Question. Answer is either the Unicode of infinite because of the tab name saying she never smiled? Question mark when you enter a blank response. Or my interpretation is the amount of time it takes for one of these fellers to smile, which is like these little power plugs. They're so cute. We know darkness is a liquid. Noel might be able to freeze darkness in the future, maybe? I don't know. Could be interesting. Moving on. The snow globe in the Weird Drought Noel animation is hometown. The ones you finish the battle and then there's like this globe around Noel in the Weird Drought. Yeah, that is hometown. Okay, another one that I'm comfortable with. Wire is foreshadowing for when a being absorbs its strings, it gets stronger. Because it's like really weird to see this Wire that has absorbed their string and then it gets like really stronger and then it is on the top roof of Queen's mansion. Like it is so weird. So does that mean Crest will absorb our soul, our light to get stronger? Who knows? And as we stated, dark fountains will end when the game is over. And the last one, the devil sleeping for 100 years is a reference to a Japanese folklore element. Tsukumogami. I don't know if I Tsukumogami. I don't know if I spelled that right, to be precise. So is the concept of darkness. You can just look it up. It's a cool concept. I saw it on our Reddit thread. So yeah, that was it. Lots of brain rot, lots of stuff, but I hope you guys liked it. God, I probably won't edit this video at first, but then I may have a version that I actually edited. So yeah. Thanks you guys for listening. I might do more theories this summer after chapters 3 and 4 come out, or I may not. It depends. I just wanted to get my brain and all of these theories I have been thinking about in the past 3 years out of my mind. Thank you for listening and see you soon.